This video gives you a quick overview of how investment and climate change appears in the climate web. It's not an in-depth video that will really walk you through a lot of things in detail. It's really just to spur your interest, hopefully, in looking further into the climate web from your standpoint. So let me just open very quickly. This is the home screen where you might go into the climate web, although you can get into the climate web in many different places. I'm just going to go directly to the investment deep dive to give you a quick tour of that. And what we have here is investment frames. You know, how are different, what are some of the different frames that you might come into the investment deep dive with? To those frames, we link arguments. And remember, these are not our arguments. These are arguments that basically come out of the literature in one way or another. And the idea is that these arguments are then linked to specific pieces of information that either support or oppose a particular argument. And that's an ongoing process. And we really have only scratched the surface, even though we've done a great deal of work on this deep dive. We've only scratched the surface of what's possible. So, you know, if you go into the literature, what we've done here is made it responsive to the idea that people are looking for answers to their "is it worth it" and "can I do it" questions. And some people need both, some people need one or the other. And so we've organized the literature, hundreds of documents, videos, reports, organized the literature according to those two questions. And note that in some cases we've gone through and pulled out key pieces of information, key graphics, etc., from these documents and reports, which is one of the things that makes the climate web so interesting. If I jump back, same thing with "can I advance my interests," investor best practices, state of climate risk reporting, investing for green growth, impact investing. So again, organizing the literature to take you right to some of the kinds of documents that would be of most interest if you're trying to figure out how to advance your interests through the investment arena. So we also have the same approach with news stories. Can I advance my interests? Hundreds of news stories. Certainly not the entire literature, but you can certainly track the conversation around investment and climate change this way. Q&A, not particularly well developed yet, but it is in some of the other deep dives. The network of investing in climate, who are key firms, who is working on stranded assets, all sorts of things that you can explore here under the networking category. Multimedia, and knowledge bases, which is where we pull together specific pieces of information, whether it's a figure, a table, all sorts of things from many different documents, and we pull them together here by topic. And so you can jump into one of these and find sort of just different discussions of value at risk associated with climate change from many different documents. And then you can go back to that document if you see something here that is of particular interest. So it's a very different way of finding information that might be particularly relevant to you. Now, one of the things I also just want to show you here is a couple of other ways that you can get into investment information. The index entry, investing and climate, and you can see here a number of different sort of subsidiary index variables, and to these index variables we attach sort of documents that are particularly relevant. I'm just going to click on investor briefs, for example, and we have things in here going all the way back to 2006, 2007 in terms of how investment houses have been talking about the climate change issue. And we've actually pulled together here, as you can see on the screen, 63 of them that we've linked specifically to the investor briefs. I'm just going to jump to the home screen for a second. And what you can do here, layer 3, finding actionable knowledge, user-specific actionable knowledge. And one of the things here we have is as an investor. And so this is basically a front door into the climate web for people interested in investment, and it points you to what's most relevant. How can you best use the index? What are specific investment questions I can explore with the climate web? So it's another doorway, which is the whole idea behind actionable knowledge, and it's specific to the topic of investment and climate. So that gives you a very quick sense, even though it's taken a few minutes, of how much information is in the climate web on the subject of investing and climate. And it's a huge amount of information, but as you'll see in the next video, it's only a small part of what might be relevant to investors in terms of climate risk.